Welcome back to the Ambassadors Podcast. Got a little bit of sad news for you guys today, though I'm going to try to make it a little bit well worth it. Long story short, we just interviewed my older brother, Joshua, for about an hour and 12 minutes. It was a great interview. He's the one that started the Ambassadors Podcast, and he goes into detail as to how he came to Christ a little bit and what his life was like before that and after, and then his adventures in the outdoors. That used to be something where he would try to escape good and the kingdom of heaven. He'd go to the outdoors before he became a Christian, and he would use it as a way to get away from the cops, get away from people, and do all sorts of bad stuff, to where now, as after he gave his life to Christ, he used it as a way to actually run towards God. And it's a beautiful part of his relationship with Christ, and it's really impactful for him. And that kind of stirred something in him where he started really noticing the spiritual benefits of the outdoors. And he talked about how he founded the Ambassadors as a group that's kind of like reinventing the Boy Scouts, but more spiritual and more focusing on God and the practical effects that aren't just physical with the outdoorsmanship and survival, but also the spiritual practicality of it as well. And he talks about his whole mentality behind it that me and Justin have been trying to express throughout the podcast, but it's best to hear from the source, and also his kind of future plans with it. And he's going to be on the podcast again. So the problem ended up happening is after the whole podcast ended, I went to go edit it, and it didn't record any of his audio, and his camera cut out. And so you couldn't see or hear him. So me and Justin are talking to nothing. And there's these big gaps of just me and him responding to nothing because you can't hear him. You could faintly hear him through my mic. And I tried to turn up the audio manually going through the whole podcast, an hour and 12 minutes of footage. And I boosted the audio, and it was inaudible. You couldn't understand what he was saying. But there was some good stuff and some highlights I think I can still share here. So you still have something to eat here on this today's episode. So you're not leaving completely hungry, expecting another Ambassadors episode. And there was one thing that stood out to me, and I'll make this a shorter episode today. And just because, first off, I'm upset that this whole thing happened. And I just, I want a lot of the things he said for you guys to hear it say from his mouth himself. So it was a good, I guess, mock episode for him to kind of get comfortable being on the podcast, and you guys get to see him the next time he comes on, which will be sooner than later. But for certain, I do want to share one awesome thing that kind of came out in my mind. So he was talking a lot about, some of the practical skills that he learned in the outdoorsmanship classes in school or YouTube stuff or trial and error things that he had to learn on his own. And seeing how they would play in his everyday life. And then also when he came and he taught us, it kind of was this cool thing because we were now coming together. And as a group, we were learning these outdoorsman ship lessons and things, but you're doing it as a group. And that's kind of one of the beautiful parts of the Ambassador that me and Justin have talked about a lot, because a lot of it's just been talking about me and his individual experience and not too much about the collective. And that's kind of something Josh, who was the leader of it, got to see and step back as he was teaching us, seeing that there was like this awesome warmth and family-like, familial-like bond that you kind of have with people when you do outdoor stuff together, when you're going through difficult things, whether it's backpacking or even something as simple as one of the lessons he taught us was just how to cook food and meats and prepare that stuff, which could be useful in the outdoors. But also, it's not just we throw each other in the outdoors and we try to survive. The Ambassadors is, again, like he said, to him, it's like trying to reinvent the Boy Scouts, but more spiritual, right? And so there's this camaraderie that comes with being a Christian, and not everything we do is just outdoors, right? Like it's faith, God, the outdoors, and servanthood. And the lesson that we did one night where it was learning about cooking, it was just a bunch of us guys at his house, which was at that time a cabin in the mountains. And we were just grilling and laughing and joking, seasoning the meat, learning all the stuff about it. And that's part of the being of an ambassador, the like-minded fellowship you have with fellow believers and people who love the outdoors and want to be a part of something that's greater than themselves, which is part of being in the outdoors, is you really are experiencing something that's so much greater than yourself. It's really great. It's beautiful, and it's something that's deeper. It's not this shallow online presence or online existence that we all live in that is really just missing the soul of a human touch, of a human interaction, of hearing someone's laugh, not through a video, but in person. And there's connections that you do have through the Ambassadors group that we are trying to create for everybody through this program that he wants to, in the future be something he could do full time to bring people in the mountains and teach them about Christ, but also his creation. And not that it's this super preachy thing of trying to convert people necessarily, but rather we are ambassadors for Christ here on earth. And one of the best ways we interact with him is through the outdoors. And this can really change your life for the better. We talked a lot about the practical skills that outdoor survival um, that comes into your life when you learn these things, because it's these hobbies you're learning, and it's not as shallow as I just go in the mountains here and there, but it's, I have excuse to go when I want to go hunting, when I want to go fishing, when I want to go camping, when I go backpacking, when I want to go, I don't know, name it. There's so many millions of things, snowboarding, whatever it is, skiing, horseback riding, trailer running, even just reading a book in the mountains or talking to God or putting together a Bible study or just praying to him. Like, these are all things, oh, there goes my phone. These are all things, especially like the ones with learning to tie knots that we learn in the ambassadors, or how to trek a long time and how to pack your backpack correctly, or the trial and error that comes with packing too much and now your backpack is too heavy for 20 miles, and then having to take the next time you go, learning and going through the suffering. A lot of the culmination of a lot of things that we've talked about on the podcast these past 30 some episodes, because today would have been episode 31 with him, which we were looking forward to, but we'll have him on again. And what we started realizing is through all these lessons and all these things that you learn in the podcast, through the podcast that we talk about, but through the ambassadors group itself, these skills you learn, these hobbies, they're actually not just practical in your life, but they build character, they build confidence and competence. You feel more of a competent person if you know how to tie, I don't know, maybe a helpful knot that could help someone get through any even non-extreme experience or circumstance, like tying the knot to, Joshua mentioned, you ever had someone who had to tie a knot for something simple in your life and they don't know how to tie any knots, and so they just tie like 12, like the saying goes, if you don't know your knot, tie lots, and then it's like impossible to undo them later on, whether it's a bread or whatever it is, or something. It could be something simple like just the bread that you're trying to put away in the fridge and someone over tightens it, or it could be something like, I don't know, you get in a car accident and you don't know how to make a tourniquet for someone. You know what I'm saying? Like, there could be all sorts of different extremes of minor scenarios that if you know them, you can be more competent and you can feel more confident in who you are. Or even just making a fire, or having stuff on you that is more minded towards the outdoors. Let's say you're coming back from skiing, or you're driving down a road and you get blizzard out and you have to survive the night, or it's just super cold and maybe not even a blizzard. And you're like, dude, I'm freezing, my car died, or whatever it is. I need heat source, or baking a shelter to last the night in case you get lost going hiking, or you injure yourself on a simple hike and there's no, like, you can fill in the blanks. And there's a lot of practical skills that can help you feel confident as a person and feel well-rounded, and it builds your character. And we talked a little bit about there's nothing wrong with video games and TVs and binging shows, but the fact of reality is, if that's all we do, which is kind of all we do in this society, it's just better, and healthier for us to do something and to curate something in our lives that can also be passed down to our children. Because you can't pass down your video games experiences to your children. I guess you could give them the games, but those are short-lived and don't do much for your life besides maybe some kind of emotional stimulation, rather than something that's like, I'm going to pass my son down a practical skill that could actually not only save him in certain circumstances, but build a hobby that is productive and that's engaging with God's creation, and something that's deeper than himself, that's grassroots to every human being, which is nature, right? So much greater than me or you, rather than just this man-made screen that just is not healthy for my eyes, that is draining my time away, and it just doesn't, it's good for the time that I do it, but how much time is too far? And I think if we're all honest with ourselves, we all spend way too many hours on our phones or on our computers or whatever it is. And there's useful aspects to it too, like I'm using right now, a camera and a screen and a microphone. So we're not dogging on that stuff, but we're saying, wouldn't you rather your children or you yourself be able to feel, and there's no age limit for the ambassadors group. You can be as old as you want, join it, 50, 60, 70, I don't care. The point of it is that let's build something practical, useful in our lives that's actually really benefiting us and other people, because ambassadors doesn't just stop at us as having cool hobbies connects us to God, but it goes further to serving people, to taking these skills and teaching other people, taking your friends, your cousins, or family, or people up into the mountains, or a younger person that you're mentoring, and teaching them these practical skills while also instilling good biblical teachings in them that can build their character and their morality, and give them something that's a little bit above themselves, right? So we talk a lot about that stuff, and we're gonna have Joshua on again. I'm gonna fix these. We troubleshot everything before we started the podcast, but for whatever reason, it just didn't work. Like, I tried my best to make sure, but that it was working, but whatever technical difficulties as as my speeches. I just got done recording like almost an hour and a half podcast, so I'm a little bit pooped out right now. But regardless, the fact of reality is that it just didn't turn out the way we wanted tonight. So I still wanted to give you guys something, and I want you guys to hear Joshua's own words about what ambassadors should be from his own mouth, and we will make that happen. Really sorry again that it didn't get to happen, but we'll make it happen. And we talked about the future plans for ambassadors, wanting to make more YouTube videos about outdoor survival, wanting to promote more stuff like community help and servanthood and mentorship and things within your own church, but also outside of your church, and also obviously in the wilderness of our lives, both spiritually and the physical ones that we can partake in as outdoorsmen and outdoors women. So I'm very excited for you guys to be able to hear that episode when we record it, because today just didn't work. If you guys have any other suggestions on other things you'd like to hear us talk about that maybe are related to the outdoors, it could be anything. Like, this podcast isn't just, let's just like went off the rails. I mean, Justin are really went off the rails. Not in a bad way. I mean, we talked about things that people asked us to talk about, but it went off the focus, and it was because we were just trying to build an audience. We're trying to build people that'd be interested in not just our personalities, but also what ambassadors is all about. So that when we did start making these outdoor stuff that was consistent, we'd have a solid foundation, a group of people that are already interested in that and excited to hear about it. And that's what we're still trying to do. And so if you have questions about outdoors, we can answer stuff like, hey, what's a good backpack for me to buy? Hey, I want to get into outdoors. What is a good pocket knife? What is a good, I want to get into hunting. What would you guys suggest for this kind of animal? What do you guys, what should I do for this or that? Whatever it could be. What is good filtration straws? What are good tents for a good price? I mean, we can talk deals that we find on outdoor gear. And I mean, it could be any of that stuff if you guys are trying to get into it. And we can share our experiences like, hey, what should I expect my first night of camping or my first time backpacking? Or what do you do when I've been backpacking and I've ran into this problem. How did you guys solve it? I mean, we're all backpackers, so we all have different experiences to pull from that are different. Justin's he does a lot of 14ers. I do more hunting and camping and more hiking recently, and a lot of fishing. And so we all have different experiences we can pull from, but it's important to us. And we think it's something that would be a real blessing to all of you guys. So we hope and pray that, you guys stick along the ride with us as ambassadors. We hope to be, for some of us, even a full-time thing one day where we really are bringing people into the outdoors. We're creating content that is uplifting to both the soul and the spirit. But if you're looking for more hot takes and controversial stuff, be more than excited, because the Not Normal podcast, which is my podcast, personal podcast, that doesn't necessarily have to do with a lot of this stuff, is going to be continuing as well. So you guys are also welcome to go there. That's a little bit more off topic of what this is, but it's a podcast where I share a lot of my own personal views and stuff like that, and just thoughts about what I think is happening on a religiously, social, and cultural commentary. So, please, I've never really said this before, but I think I should start saying that if you like this stuff and you are listening and you appreciate our content, comment, even if you just say hi, or even if you just say, hey, I appreciate today's video or whatever, like that helps us. And also lets us know that you guys are interacting and you guys actually enjoy the stuff we do. And like, subscribe, share with people. If it's a podcast episode that you think is interesting that someone else could appreciate, like, we're putting ourselves out there and we want people to be able to enjoy it, but we want to grow, especially as we talk about the gospel. And we think that the core message of the ambassadors group can actually positively affect everyone. So please, I mean, share our stuff. We love that you guys view it, and we want more people to be able to enjoy it. Nothing is, I'm not saying that because I'm trying to make money off this. Like, we don't make it, there's no ads or any stuff like that. Maybe one day we can not even big enough to put ads on these, even if that was something we were okay with doing, which is something we haven't even talked about. And maybe one day if that might help fund the whole organization that is the ambassadors, to bring you guys more content, might go down that, but that's something we haven't even really talked about. So I'm just saying that so you guys can have an idea of or you guys can see why I'm asking you to subscribe and share, because we want people to be able to consume content that we think is healthy and good for them, that is filled in this big ocean of the internet that has so much evil in there. Why don't we try to be a blessing to people and help them? Because this is the kind of the conduit in which everyone interacts with each other now. You can't just go post a bunch of flyers on, hey, come join our ambassadors group. You can today, but it won't have the same reach and effect that this does. So anyways, getting off track already. We appreciate you guys, every single one of you guys, for listening. And again, I'm sorry that today's episode didn't get recorded, or that just the audio wasn't working, but I hope you still got a little bit snack, I guess you could say, from what I kind of shared from there today. Just the warmth that comes with being an ambassador for Christ with other ambassadors, that fellowship that you have, um, that can last a lifetime if you foster that and you keep it grounded in truth, which is Christ Jesus our Lord. So love you guys. Shorter episode today. We'll get back on it next week, and hopefully we can figure out some of these technical difficulties and get everything working up and at it. So like, subscribe, comment, share. You know the whole drill. We appreciate all of our listeners. We want to grow our community because we think we got something special here. But without further ado, I shall let you go. Do whatever the heck you were doing before you were listening to this. And join in next week. Every Thursday is when we upload. And if you're on the Discord, we record usually 6:30 is Wednesday, maybe a little later, but on the dot, usually 6:30 is when I start the stream. So love you guys. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.